At our company's awards ceremony, my coworker shouted over dinner, she didn't even finish her degree. I hacked the system to get her hired. Guest froze mid-bite. She thought she was insulting me. Instead, she accidentally admitted to wire fraud and identity theft. I stayed silent as the head of HR, already watching via remote live stream, ordered security to escort her out immediately. The company filed charges within days, and her career was destroyed before she even made it back to her car. I never thought someone could hate me just for doing my job well. But Angela made it her mission to tear me down from the day she stepped into our office in Austin, Texas. I work in cybersecurity, not the flashy kind you see in movies, the real, grueling kind. Endless updates, patches, penetration tests, report writing. I've been with the company for 6 years. I don't have a computer science degree. Never finished it, life got in the way, but I have certifications, experience, and a track record that speaks for itself. Nobody ever questioned me. Not until Angela showed up. She came in loud. Top of her class, she said. Fluent in 5 programming languages. Former DARPA consultant, which always struck me as an odd brag. She landed in our team like she owned it. For a while, people bought into it. I stayed quiet. I knew what I brought to the table. But Angela? She started with little jabs. First week on the job, I caught her smirking after a meeting. I overheard her telling one of the junior analysts, "You know, not everyone needs a degree, I guess, but for high-level cybersecurity work, I wouldn't trust just anyone." She knew I didn't have a degree. She dug through HR's internal system and found it. She must have. That was the first red flag. I kept my head down, but then it started getting worse. Anytime I made a point in meetings, she'd interrupt. If I submitted a report, she'd find a minor typo and bring it up loudly in front of the team. Still, I gave her the benefit of the doubt. I've worked with insecure people before. Most flame out quick. She didn't. One day I got called into a quiet meeting with our department lead. Apparently someone had flagged my credentials for an internal audit. They said there were discrepancies. The timing was suspicious. I had just been tapped to lead a high-profile system audit for one of our government clients. The audit turned up nothing. I passed with flying colors. But it shook me. I knew it had to be Angela, but I couldn't prove it. That brings me to the company dinner. The day everything blew wide open. It was a Friday night. Big ballroom downtown. Tables with name cards, live music, full bar. The company went all out. Our CEO was there. Executives from DC and Chicago flew in. Even our main federal client sent 2 reps. I was nervous. Not because of the crowd, but because my manager told me earlier that week I was being considered for a promotion. Senior level, with clearance expansion. It would have changed everything for me. When they called my name for the Technical Leadership Award, I felt this wave of pride and anxiety. I stood up to walk to the stage. And that's when Angela, seated 2 tables over with the engineering team, shouted. She didn't even finish her degree. I hacked the system to get her hired. At first, people laughed nervously, like they thought it was a weird joke. But then she doubled down. I'm serious. Y'all don't know? I got her hired. Total imposter. She wasn't even qualified. Dead silence. You could hear glasses being set down. Our company Livestream, which had been running for remote employees and HR at headquarters, caught every word. I stood frozen halfway to the stage. Angela laughed again. You guys are so sensitive. I'm just saying, she talks a big game. But I made a few changes in the system to push her through. Whatever. She didn't know what she just admitted. See, the head of HR, Lisa, had been watching from Chicago. For the past 2 weeks, she'd been investigating some access violations flagged by our systems. Login mismatches. Unusual admin-level activity. Someone had been poking around in places they shouldn't have: HR systems, application databases, email servers. Angela's outburst wasn't just petty. She just confessed publicly to wire fraud and unauthorized access of secure systems. And she implicated herself on a live stream with timestamps, witnesses, and client reps present. Security moved fast. Within a minute, 2 plainclothes guards, who had been hired to quietly blend into the event, approached Angela's table. One leaned in and said something. She laughed. Are you serious right now? I was joking. They weren't joking. They escorted her out. She tried to protest. You're kicking me out for a joke? You can't be serious. Nobody said a word. I didn't move. I didn't have to. That night, I got a single message on my smartwatch from Lisa. Do not engage. We've been tracking her for weeks. You're safe. Angela didn't make it back to her car before her badge was deactivated. On Monday, the entire office got a formal notice. She had been terminated for gross misconduct and data violations. 2 days later, a federal complaint was filed against her. Turns out, Angela had used stolen credentials from her last job, a shady fintech startup that had a quiet data breach last year, to gain unauthorized access to our systems. She manipulated internal hiring records, including mine, not to help me, but to flag me as unqualified and try to sabotage my promotion chances. The system rejected her tampering because our backend logged the IP address as external. It triggered a silent alert that went to IT security, my department, which I wasn't allowed to see due to conflict of interest. She thought I got her caught. In reality, she caught herself. And her confession? That was the final nail. She falsified her own resume, fabricated degrees, lied about her work history. She wasn't a former DARPA consultant. She was a junior QA analyst at a marketing app company that folded during COVID. The fallout was brutal. Every clearance she held was revoked. She's been reported to 3 separate tech oversight bodies. Her name is on multiple background check flag systems now. And me? I didn't have to say a word. I got promoted, cleared for the federal contract, got a 30% raise in stock options. The executives now come to me for security advice. Angela thought she was the smartest person in the room. She didn't even realize she was holding the match when she lit her whole career on fire. About 3 weeks after Angela's spectacular downfall, I thought the storm had passed. Everyone was still whispering about it, of course. People were asking me quietly in the break room, did she really hack the system? Or, how long did you know something was off? I just kept things professional. I didn't want to be dragged into gossip. But deep down, I was uneasy. Something didn't sit right. Then, one morning, our office administrator, Pam, buzzed my desk. There's a man here asking for you. Says he used to work with you at TechHive. TechHive was Angela's old company, the one that folded after the data breach. I got up, walked to the front, and saw him. Older guy, mid-50s, stiff suit, no smile. Name's Carl, he said, handing me a card. I was the internal compliance officer at TechHive before it went under. We're working with federal investigators now. I need to speak with you about Angela's activities while she was employed there. That's when things turned. Carl didn't just want to talk about what she'd done after she left TechHive. He wanted to know what I knew about her time there. I told him I'd never worked at TechHive. He looked confused. She submitted an HR packet with your name and photo listed as a former reference, he said. And there are 2 emails where she claims to have worked under you as a security liaison. The signature block even has your name and phone number. I felt my stomach drop. Angela didn't just sabotage me at our current job. She had been using my identity before she ever met me. Somehow, she had gotten a hold of my resume, my photo, my public LinkedIn profile, and used them to create fake references for herself. She listed me as a supervisor at TechHive, created fake emails where I supposedly praised her work ethic. She used my name to build her whole career. Carl said the feds suspected she'd done the same with at least 2 other people. But I was the only one she actually ended up working with later. She built a career out of identities that weren't hers, he said. But using you as a reference, and then ending up in the same company? That's not just a coincidence. It wasn't. Later that night, I pulled out an old email address I hadn't used in years, one I kept for freelance work back in my early 20s. When I checked the inbox, my heart stopped. There were dozens of emails I'd never seen. Forwarded messages between Angela and various companies. Job inquiries. Even cover letters written by her, signed with my name as a reference. And the creepiest part? One of the documents had a full fake reference letter on my old letterhead, with my digital signature. She'd been using me as her fake mentor. For years. The truth hit me hard. Angela had picked me long before I ever met her face to face. I was just a name and a face she found online. Someone with a clean record and enough credibility to make her lies stick. She didn't just try to sabotage me out of jealousy. She built her whole professional life on my identity and then tried to erase me when we ended up under the same roof. After discovering how deep Angela's deception went, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about all the places she could have used my name. What else was out there? What jobs did she get because of me? What lies did she tell while pretending I backed her? The next morning, I sent everything I found, the emails, fake letters, even the spoofed signatures, to our internal legal team. I marked the email urgent. Within 2 hours, I got a call back from Lisa, our head of HR. She sounded serious. I'm putting you in touch with our corporate legal counsel, she said, and someone from the FBI's cyber division. Don't speak to anyone else about this until then. FBI. I dealt with federal audits before. That comes with the territory and cybersecurity. But this was different. This wasn't a security compliance check. This was identity theft. Fraud. Years of it. That week, I was interviewed twice, once by corporate lawyers and once over a secure Zoom line with 2 federal agents. They asked questions I hadn't expected. Did you ever meet her prior to your current employment? Do you remember applying to jobs you were rejected from for unknown reasons? Have you ever received strange communications from recruiters or hiring managers that didn't go anywhere? Then one of the agents, Agent Mendoza, pulled up a file. We believe Angela used your name and professional identity as a ghost credential to gain access to at least 3 sensitive contract positions. 2 of those jobs had active background checks in progress, but the signatures and contacts she gave were fraudulent. One of those employers thought they were speaking to you. We have the recorded call. It got worse. Angela had used my name as a character reference for a federal contractor ID badge. She submitted a clearance sponsorship form with my name on it, claiming we had worked together at an agency we both had no connection to. Her access had been limited, but that kind of misrepresentation, it was enough to bring everything under review. You could be exposed, too, Mendoza said. Not legally. But if any of these employers think you were involved, it could muddy your record. That's why we're pushing this up the chain. I asked what I needed to do. They told me to sit tight and not contact Angela. But it didn't stop there. 2 weeks later, I got a phone call from a blocked number. I let it go to voicemail. It was her. Hey, I know you're probably mad. But listen, I never meant for it to go that far. We were both trying to survive out there. I just needed a little help. You were doing fine, and I needed a leg up. That's all. I didn't mean to hurt you. I forwarded the voicemail immediately, but I couldn't stop listening to it. Over and over. Her voice didn't sound angry. It sounded tired. Cold. Like she was trying to manipulate me again, but this time with guilt. Then I got the email. A burner address. No name. Just this. You think this ends with me? Look deeper. This game's bigger than either of us. Attached was a PDF. It was a spreadsheet. Names. Companies. Email addresses. Fake reference chains. Reused identities. My name wasn't the only one. Angela had been part of something larger. A small but well-organized ring of fake resumes, synthetic identities, and credential laundering. And some of the names on that list still worked in our company. I stared at that spreadsheet for hours. Dozens of names. Half I didn't recognize, but 5 of them, they worked with me. Same floor. Same security clearance. Some were in critical positions. I felt sick. It wasn't just Angela. She'd been part of something bigger, and she dragged me into it because I was the one thread that connected everything. My name had weight. My record was clean. That made me valuable to her, and maybe to the rest of them. I had 2 choices: stay quiet, protect my own promotion, my raise, my reputation, or blow it all open. I chose the second. I forwarded everything, the spreadsheet, the burner email, the voicemail, to Lisa and to Agent Mendoza. Within hours, I was called into a sealed room with 2 federal agents and our company's chief compliance officer. Are you prepared to testify? They asked. Yes. Over the next 6 weeks, I worked directly with the FBI and our legal team. They launched a silent internal investigation. People were pulled into one-on-one meetings without notice. Access logs were reviewed. Personal devices were examined under court order. By the end of the 3rd week, 2 employees had quietly resigned. One of them, a guy in procurement named Jared, had used a dead cousin's identity to fake a clearance history. Another woman in HR had built her resume using a stolen degree, and yes, Angela had vouched for her using another fake version of me. It all collapsed fast. A grand jury was convened within months. Angela was the star of the show. She was charged with wire fraud, identity theft conspiracy to commit fraud, false statements to federal officials, unlawful possession of personally identifiable information, but I wasn't completely innocent either. When they dug deep, they found that I had used the same fake email Angela had created to send one response, a quick, short thanks, to a recruiter from her past job. I didn't remember doing it, but I had used it, even for a second, which made me involved by technicality. I wasn't charged, but I got a formal warning from my employer. My clearance review was paused. My promotion was frozen. And worst of all, my name was attached to every article about the case. Cybersecurity analyst unwittingly dragged into high-level resume fraud ring. I lost clients. A few recruiters stopped calling. My raise vanished. The stock options? Gone. Angela, meanwhile, accepted a plea deal. 5 years in federal prison, with a chance of parole in 3. She never apologized. But before sentencing, she sent one last email. From jail. I didn't ruin your life. You just weren't smart enough to stay out of mine. I stared at the screen for a long time. I thought about deleting it. Instead, I printed it, framed it, and hung it above my desk at home. Every time I look at it, I remember 2 things. Trust no one who moves too fast and shines too bright. Always check who's writing your story for you before they sign your name to it. And me? I'm still in the game. But now I keep receipts. Always. And I never, ever sit with my back to the door.